Ooh, somebody want to speak to LeBron. LeBron Ramon James. He's got a problem on his hands now. Well, star power and money can fix a lot. It keeps people at bay. Because once you got star power, you got protection. Because if somebody touches you, they affect someone else's money. And somebody else is making money off what you're doing. That's a bit of a problem. So he doesn't have to have the threat of that. Plus, the publicity is not good for those involved. Now, you might want to know what we're talking about here at One Crack News, so let's talk about it and dive in deep. LeBron James was called out by Deion Joseph, who's a LAPD officer, and he's a philanthropist, a guy who's actively in the community, trying to work with the people in the community. Big brother, down there trying to bridge the relationship between the LAPD and the people that it's supposed to protect. Now, when LeBron did what he did with the 16-year-old girl in Columbus situation, and he posted the picture of the officer and without knowing the context of anything that happened, LeBron's community activistness and everything that he's done, all of these things, Joseph, who was a fan of LeBron, has cheered for him his entire life, for his basically his entire NBA career. But when these things happened, he felt compelled to speak out to LeBron. And he called him off base and said that, that was a bit extreme. And was surprised by all the attention and didn't like the spin on it, that he felt that the right wing people were going to go to war with LeBron. So he wants to start a dialogue saying, I'm not trying to shame LeBron. I want to have a conversation with him. And even if he doesn't want to have a conversation with me, at least sit down someday and talk to a police officer and find out who they are instead of summing up who we are. And the Micaiah Bryant situation shouldn't have happened. But a lot of fault was on Micaiah Bryant's side of the story. Now, LeBron's calling for accountability, but Mr. Joseph is not coming from a place of hatred. He's not name calling. He was raised to see the whole of a human being and not to hyper focus on flaws or make or said flaws or whatever, but the whole person of who they are. And he's an honest man. So when he says your current stance on policing, or policing rather, is so off base and extreme, your tweet that targeted a police officer in Ohio who saved a young woman's life was irresponsible and disturbing. It showed a complete lack of understanding of the challenge of our job in the heat of the moment. You basically put a target on the back of a human being who had to make a split second decision to save a life from a deadly attack. A decision I know he and many others wish they never have to make, especially when it involves someone so young. Now, when this was done, he also continued to try to, make LeBron understand the error in his ways and said, but you can't always stop humanity. With humanity comes imperfections. As long as a human being Our human beings rather are part of any profession, things can happen. It's not an excuse, it's a reality. Apathy, brutality, insensitivity, racism, bias, these are things that are not police traits. They're human traits, and they exist in all professions. But I also believe that is the exception, not the rule. And these are wonderful words. But then the LAPD want an investigation. The union wants an investigation, wants LeBron rather expelled, and demand that Adam Silver launch an launch a investigation into LeBron James's conduct behind his posts, where they're gender based. They think he should be expelled from the league from what he's doing or what he just did. Now, here's the situation in total. While these are very nice words, Mr. Johnson, what LeBron did was wrong. Was 100% what you don't do in the situation. But he is the exception and not the rule. The problem is when these exceptions happen, and like he said, they're in every business. These human traits are in every business and every profession around the world. But every business and professions out here are not taking the lives of people and being able to go home to their families and walk back outside, go to barbecues. They get to go out and take lives and cost and destroy families with these exceptions. So when a lot of these exceptions are happening state by state, city by city, and we're seeing a pattern where people are not policed the same based on the colors of their skin, people who are on this color of skin of the people who are the victims of this are going to feel a certain way. They're going to feel unsafe. And some will feel outraged because they all don't have family members or friends and family who are as successful as them. They might only be the only successful people in their generation. The people they grew up with were poor, as a lot of them come from poverty. A lot of them don't come from rich backgrounds and family. Now, the majority of the new class might grow up with wealth and responsibility and investment plans and all of these different things, but the majority of us don't have these things. So they feel the pain because it really hits home when these things are happening, and then there's like no rhyme or reason why certain instances happen. And LeBron was using his celebrity in the wrong way. He was using it inwards to bring attention to himself in this situation, trying to be a trending topic because of his own vanity and insanity. But when will you guys stand up to your own department, your own job, your own superiors, and say these exceptions are not acceptable? So until that happens, you have no rights or no grounds to come or even say any of these words to LeBron James. LeBron James don't need these words said to him. This needs to be said to those exceptions and not the rules. Because the exceptions are starting to look like there's a rule. So if you want to fix something and you want something to stop, go to the source of the problems and address the sources of the problems before you start coming after easy targets. Sure, what he did was wrong, but what's happening out in these streets, that's even more despicable. So that's all I got to say about that. Subscribe to the page. It's your boy Carcino. I'm out. One Crack News, baby.